this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Kitchen time. This is emergency maintenance in one case. I don't know whether I can show you. This is Dendrobium fleckeri, and I doubt if the light will pick it up. I might be able to brighten it. But behind this latest growth here, this nice big one, is another new growth, and it's gone right up inside that crack. I don't know whether it's actually going to show on the camera, but it's not going to do any good in there. It's just going to be lost, so I lose the new growth. So I'm hoping I've caught it in time and I can pull it out and give it some room to grow. So that one's just coming off the mount, getting turned round the other way and getting remounted. That way the oldest part of the plant will be against the mount and new growths can come forward. That's my fault for mounting it the wrong way round. And this one is was, I think, Epidendrum polybulbum. It's now called something else now, in Dinema or something like that. Anyway, the latest growths are climbing off the mount. Now this does tend to push out growths and have aerial roots, but it's actually been on this mount quite a long time. The older part of the plant I don't believe is going to shoot out anymore. You know, it's becoming leafless, so this part of the plant isn't really serving any purpose anymore. So I'm going to take it off the mount and refresh the moss, lower this section down a bit, and that should bring these extensions back onto the mount. I might even cut them and introduce them lower down so that they've got somewhere to be, and that way I get like a bush. I'll see how I go when it comes off the mount. Let's get that one out of the way first. I'll do this one first. I can't believe I even spotted that, but anyway, we'll get it off. I think it should come off reasonably easy. And again, just tease out the old moss to refresh it. Hasn't been on the mount too long, but you know, if you're going to unmount something, you just as well replace the moss. He says it's going to come off easily. I could be wrong. But actually, I think I'll do it the other way around. I think what I'll do is give that a soak, because it's dry at the moment. It was watered earlier yesterday. It's bone dry at the moment, so I'll just run that under the tap just to moisten that moss and try and loosen it, and then just leave it to soak for a bit while I do the other one first. Plans change. It's life. Get that out of the way. And where's my other one? We'll bring this back, see what happens with this one. This one is also dry, but I wanted this one dry because I tried teasing these roots yesterday, and actually they seemed to be coming off quite easily yesterday, but yesterday they were wet. So I'm going to do the same with that. I'll moisten it. And then I'll finish my coffee and come back when they've had a little soak, and we'll see where we go from there. Right, let's try again. Hang on, let me put the light on. It does help. Indoors and all that. Right, come off any easier this time. Not sure. Feeling this is such a gnarly piece, although it doesn't have an extensive root system. I think it's managed to get right in the gnarly bits, which is good, but I don't want to go too mad on the grounds that obviously I've got a new growth at the back there that's delicate, and I need to pull the plant away from the mount. I am breaking some roots, inevitable, but hopefully they're going to be older roots. God, you know, I don't think I've ever had a plant attached that well before. So I'd start teasing outwards now. We should be able to ease some of these roots off without breaking them. How are we doing now? Getting there. Am I going to save that new growth? Yes, I think I've caught it in time. Yes, just about. It's not distorted and it hasn't lost its growing tip. So that's good, we've managed to save that. I'll give that a rinse under the tap and get the worst of the older moss off. I mean, it's not really old moss, but you know, the fact that I'm remounting it, I just as well refresh the moss, start it again. And this time it's going round that way, so that the new growth area points away from the mount. Mistake on my part. Can't get it right all the time. Yeah, you can see, look, there's a real hollow there, and that's where the roots have got in, which is good, but it meant getting it off again was not so good. I'll give that a bit of a scrub. I think what I might do with this is reuse it, but reuse it that way up. Yeah, so I've got the plant down at the base here. It doesn't extend its roots too far, so if I give this to the roots, that's flatter. It's still got some gnarly bits, but it hasn't got these huge recesses. So I'll give that a scrub. Right, that's one. Let's have a look and see if the other one will come off. Missed one. Missed it again. Come on, scissors. They need sharpening. That's better. Right, let's see if this one will come off then. So say the main part of the plant should detach quite easily. Yeah, see, the whole part of that plant's come off. It's this bit. It's these little bits. Well, that one's come off okay. I think I may have lost one or two root tips, but not many. And a lot of the roots on this one are actually aerial anyway, so this one's still got a reasonable root base. Yeah, there's a couple of root tips going, but not many. Most of them are detaching okay. Not all. Yeah, it's the ones that get right in under the bark. You're not going to save them. But most of those have come off okay. It's the easy way to tell. If half your root system's still on the mount, then you've lost half your root system. If there's just an odd few, then obviously it didn't do too bad. And that's a good piece of bark for this thing, because it's gnarly all over. It's even got a hole in the middle. But again, I'll give that a bit of a scrub. And now, because I know this has been on the plant a while, I know that in those days I used to put the moss on the mount and then put the plant on top of the moss. So getting the old moss out to refresh it is virtually impossible without major disturbance. But obviously that only had a tiny portion of moss. You see, this whole plant originates from one base here. That's the original plant down there. Then it's extended up here. It's extended in two different directions here. And all of that has just grown from that one tiny little piece down here. So it's come on well, but it needs rearranging. It needs getting in a place where it can do better. And now you can see the separate parts of the plant and where the growing areas are and where the older parts are that are not going to grow anymore. You know, eventually they become deciduous bulbs, so they're not going to do much. So we can chop some bits off of that and rearrange it again. As I say, I've got 3 good growing leads there, all with good roots on. So although it starts from one place, I'll restart it from 3 separate places and rearrange that on the mount, make it look a bit better. Once I've had a clean up, so I'll be back. Okay, we'll have a go at this one first. Now this is just a matter of deciding how far back to go with the parts of the plant that are probably not going to branch out again. So this first one here, obviously all of the active roots are from this point forward. These are old roots dying back, yes? So it's highly unlikely this part of the plant's going to branch out now. So I'm going to go back to there. So that's one piece. Right, let's have a look over this side now. This piece is highly active at the top, has branched well in several directions. So we've got a long piece there, plus a side branch coming back. I think I'll apply the same logic. I'll go back to the last place there was active roots, which is there. So that's another piece. Now what have we got here? I know this one has branched in several places. That's an exceptionally good lead that stands in its own right. So you can come off there. What does that leave? It leaves possibility of a branch coming out there, and again quite a good lead. I don't want to leave too few bulbs on there, so I think I'm going to keep those two pieces together. Yeah, I think I will. I'll keep those joined. So now quite honestly, if I planted that now, having taken off its leads, it will branch, it will shoot out. I'm confident of that. So I might actually just find another mount somewhere, little one, plant that piece separately, that's the old part of the plant, and see if it grows, because if it does, then it's a plant for somebody else, you know, another version of this. And I'll keep these bits. I mean, I could try planting that on this mount, but then if it doesn't take, I've got an old part of the plant in amongst the nice new parts, which won't look so good. Right, before I get told off, let's make sure I'm going to need to go round a lot of times, because I've got quite a few pieces here, so I'm going to take off a very long stretch. And as I say, wasting a little bit of fishing line is much better than running out before you've finished. So quite a nice long piece. And before I get told off, I will attach the fishing line first, rather than try and do it second like I normally do. It's an old habit that I've been doing for years. It's difficult to break, but you know, I'm just when you change a routine that you've been doing for a long time, sometimes you just forget that you've changed it and go back to your old ways. I've always put the plant on first and then tried to attach the fishing line. And quite honestly, it's hard work. Half the time the plant falls off, then all the moss falls off, and then there's language and all that, so it's much easier to get the tie on first. The only thing I need to decide is whereabouts these pieces are actually going to go. Now this piece has got to go very low down, yeah, to give that extension. Well, hang on, I'm probably off camera here. There we go. So this piece is going to go low down to give the extension plenty of places to grow. That piece can actually, that piece needs to go on the left hand side because it's naturally turning itself towards the right, yeah, so that still gives it some mount to go on. Doesn't matter if these pieces cross, it's going to tangle itself up anyway, it just does that naturally. Can I straighten that piece out? Yes, that will give me a side growth as well. I think that can sort of go like that, and then this last piece can go up through there. So yeah, the whole plant is going to go quite low down on the mount, so we'll start our loop quite low down on the mount. That way my first loop around the plant itself will be going against the older parts of the stem, you know, the bits that were left on just as a basis. Let's get that nice and tight. There we go. Right, now what we got to do is put all the bits of plants back on. That's the awkward bit, because it has got a natural twist in it, but I'm going to straighten it. It's going to go up whether it likes it or not, and it's already got several branches. So that bit's going to go there, that bit's going to tuck underneath and go up through the middle. That's those two. That's a nice straight piece, and this is the one with the bend in it, so that one needs to go there, right on the edge, and that one can go right up through the middle. like that. And that's given me a nice bush at the base of the plant. Now I will put some moss on this, but I'm not putting much on. You could see the way this grew before I took it off the mount. It's quite happy to just attach to the bark and have no moss. So if it's happy to grow like that, I don't need to bury the roots. I just need to get an amount in places that will stay wet longer than the roots would do if they were bare over the whole area of the plant. Because obviously this time of year, you know, the mounts dry fast. So to just give them some moss allows part of the root system to stay hydrated that much longer than it would do with none. So that's all I'm doing. I'm just putting a little bit in around places just to help with that hydration, and then we'll try and tie it on before it all falls off, which is what normally happens. Dry hands. You work with wet hands and fishing line, your fishing line sticks to your hands instead of where it's supposed to go. Right. This is going to be fun because it's going to be very easy to catch leaves in under here when I only want to catch stems, really. Like that. Come out. I suppose I can always hook them out afterwards. Right, that's my first tie. The next one's got to hold that piece of moss on. I go over about. I'm going to go over the top of that, not underneath it. Let's get a good hold here. That's got it. That's 2. Probably get away with 3, maybe 4. You do need to go careful if you use fishing line. It is capable of cutting in, which you don't want. You just want to hold, not garrot. And then we'll go around one more near the top of the plant, just to hold those extensions. All those roots get a hold. That, I think, will do it. Miles too much. As I've said, I'd rather have too much than too little. There's the test. Yep, okay there. I can see some areas of moss that are loose. So I'm going to go round for no other reason than holding a few bits of moss in place rather than the plant. The plant's held now, it doesn't need any more, but the moss does. So I'm just taking it round again through the gaps where the moss is. Oops, there's a new growth there. We don't want to garrot that, do we? It's one awkward bit, isn't there? When you do something, there's always one bit that just holds you up. I think that will do. Yeah. Just having a look at a new growth hanging out the side to see if I can do something with it. I think if I just bend it in round there, then it will grow across as the roots. I'm going to go round once more just to hold that tiny little growth at the base of the plant, and then it will grow across before it starts going up, and that's more bush, if you know what I mean. I can get in between the two. Yeah, and then the roots will go straight in the moss. There we go. That will do nicely. Get in there. Thank you. And then get my new tag, because this one didn't actually have a tag. So we'll just get a label in there. I've even written on the label the 2 names this time. You know me, normally whatever a plant's called when I get it, that's how it stays. But I've actually seen this plant on several occasions now that's actually been in shows with its new name. So obviously its new name is now established enough that I ought to use it, really. So I've got both on there. I've got Dinema polybulbon was epidendrum. Right, so that's that one done. We'll have a look at the front before it goes back out in the grow room. There we go. So what we've got now is a nice flat bush with no leaves trapped in the the fishing line. Everything free to grow. Yeah, there's a few the base of the plants are hanging low. Well, they're probably not going to produce any more roots, so they don't matter, but it gives it plenty of room to extend upwards, and there are some crossing pieces, so it should bush up quite nicely now. Right, that's that one done. Get you out of the way. Now this one, I managed to get most of the old moss out, and as you can see, being planted this way, that new growth was totally trapped, and that's my fault. You know, these were the oldest canes, that should have been against the mount. Chances are there was a new growth poking out that made my decision for me, if you know what I mean. Is this cooled off now? Yes. I did actually pour some boiling water over this one. I've had instances, in this country they're called woodlouse. Yeah, woodlice, plural I think. I think they're called pill bugs or something in some other countries, but whatever they are, they can get down in there and they'll stay there and just chew off your roots and eat the bark, and any decay that happens they'll feed on it and they'll stay there. And then when you water your mount, you get all the little black bits, which is probably their poo, come to think of it, in your water, which is right blinking pain. So I did pour some boiling water over it to make sure nothing is living inside those crevices. And the plant's now going to go much lower down on the plant. So that's it. This is going to be an easy one. Let's get some fishing line. So when I put this fishing line away, it goes into a crevice, and sometimes it's just a pain to pull out again. Teeth. Gotcha. Need to go round. This is a very wide mount this time, so each turn is going to use a fair old bit, and I'll probably need to go round 3, maybe 4, so allow for 4. Certainly won't be any more than that, I wouldn't have thought. That should do. Something like that. Out the way. Get my loop on first. I only get told off if I don't do it. So I don't get told off as such, I get reminded on the grounds that would have been much easier if you did the first loop before you put the plant on. I don't know whether you can have a sarcastic tone in a comment. But nonetheless, I know exactly the point, and the point is very sound. Get your loop on before you get your plant and your moss on there, and then it will stay there and won't come flying off halfway through trying to get it to work. Make life easy if you can. Right, there we go. That's the first one then. Now we get the plant on. Low down. It's got a very, very short, stubby, very, very stiff root system. These roots are incredibly stiff. Still got a bit of old moss in there. Now a little bit won't hurt. And I don't think this is ever going to have an extensive root system, so I can plant it quite low down. And then, as I said, the leads are now at the front of the plant, and not pointing up into the crevices. Can't believe I did that, but say can't get it right all the time. Again, I don't need too much moss on here, just enough to keep the roots hydrated without keeping them soggy. You always bear in mind, like I'm doing this as we're heading in towards summer. Not the best time, but I do have a new growth. New growth will be followed by new roots, so I'm okay with that despite the time of year. But you have to bear in mind, if you put a huge mound of moss around a plant, what are you going to do in the winter? how long is it going to stay wet with that amount of moss, short days, not using the water up, and probably low temperatures, depending on where you grow. So you have to, you know, think of your year-round care, not just your summer care. Right. Is that going to be enough? Yep. I said 3 would do it, didn't I? No, this is going to be fun. I'm going to put this over the top of this saucer. That new growth is sticking out and is fragile. If I lay that flat now, I'll break it trying to tie my thing. So let's make sure it goes down in the moss bowl. That way it's got a little cushion. Only if I put the weight of you know, the mount on that growth, that would break, I suspect. So we won't. I should be watering my plants really. I don't know what on earth made me want to do this first. You know, I normally do this sort of thing in the afternoons after I've done all my chores like watering and stuff. Put the tag back on. Stick that in from the side. Hopefully it'll hide at the back of the mount. I'm reusing the old tag on this. There's nothing wrong with it, despite it not being colour coordinated with the grow room, which currently is on white tags. But then there's still some yellow ones lurking around. I think there might even be an odd red one in places. But slowly but surely they'll all end up being rose tags. She bought me gifted me a huge pack of nice white wide tags. So plenty of room for writing on them. Right, have we still got our new growth? Yes, that's good. Otherwise there wouldn't have been a lot of point in doing that, would there? Okay, so that's that one done. This, has it bloomed? It bloomed once, somewhere back here on one of these shorter canes. This is the latest growth, and this has now got 3 leaves on it. But I saw one of these on one of the Facebook groups in bloom, and that was a little bit of an eye-opener, because the plant was twice the size of this and it had multiple blooms on the canes, whereas mine only had 1. So obviously it's a young plant, so it's capable of blooming on here. But this is another one of those a little bit like Latoria types, even though it isn't really, it's an Aussie type, but it always has a sheath on every growth. But you don't get a bloom straight away. It seems to tease, seems to like to produce the sheath and then wait. And then sometime down the line it might think about blooming. Okay, so that's those 2 done. Get them back in the grow room. Another coffee, clear up, and then start me watering. And that'll be that for today. See you next time.